Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Lisa. I've been teaching English as a second language for over 10 years now. If you're new to the channel, please feel free to look around. I have things for students as well as teachers. Today we are going to talk about how best to learn vocabulary words. I will take you through, I call them the 5 traditional steps of learning vocabulary, but also I'm going to add a technique that can really help you learn words quickly. So if you add this in addition to those 5 steps, you can learn vocabulary a lot quicker. And I'll also do a lesson today with you, taking those words, going through the process, and then seeing how you can actually apply what you've learned. I'm going to use an everyday common situation, such as going to the post office. This is very helpful if you're living in the United States or if you're traveling to another country. One of the things that we have to get used to is these everyday situations that require different vocabulary. Remember, vocabulary is very specialized when we're thinking of very specific situations. If we're talking about cooking, we need different words as opposed to when we're talking about gardening. So vocabulary is very specific. So when you learn vocabulary, try to learn the words that would help you the best based on your situation. So if you're a chef and you want to improve your English, for sure, you need to learn those cooking vocabularies. If you're somebody who is a gardener or you have a business selling plants or flowers, then yes, you need to learn those words for gardening. But if you're somebody who works in an office, you're a businessman, businesswoman, maybe those cooking vocabulary words and the gardening words are not going to affect your life as intensely as it would the other two. So think about that. Don't just randomly learn words. Make sure you are finding words that really can affect your English language life quickly and in a positive way. So let's go through those steps. The first one, when you want to learn a word, of course, is to do the obvious. Learn the pronunciation. But you have to remember pronunciation has different things involved. So we have to learn the actual sounds, the individual sounds of the letters, and also we have to learn sound clusters. So in English, 2 letters together make a sound. So for example, the PH sound, when you put those 2 letters together, the P and the H, it makes an F sound. So that's a sound cluster in English. You also have to think about the stress, where we go up, where we come down. So you have to remember that English is a stress time language. It is not a syllable time language. So we have to make sure that the stress is appropriate. So we get the pronunciation, thinking about all these things, and also the number of sounds. Don't forget the number of syllables in that word, because if you miss a syllable, then we don't know what word you're talking about. So we have to think of all these things when we think of pronunciation. Okay, so that's step 1. We got the pronunciation. Step 2, we have to think about the meaning of the word. Well, what does it mean? So we get a meaning of the word. And then we also have to think about the part of speech. Is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it an adjective? And also, can that word be used as multiple parts of speech? So for example, you can use the verb want. I want candy. It's a desire, right? We're using it as a verb. I want candy. But it can also be used as an adjective. He's a wanted man. Wanted man. So the police are looking for him. So he's a desired man, right? The police want to find him. So think about the part of speech and if the word could be used differently. And we have to also think about how it's used. So I gave you an example if we change that part of speech, but really how you use it in a sentence. So students who keep a notebook and use the word and write an example sentence do very well. And then we have to think about this stage, which is very important, called activation. Activation is really using the word yourself. So I find many students fall short. They do steps 1 through 4, as I just mentioned, but they're very weak in this activation phase. So activation is trying to put it in your vocabulary, really trying to work with the word, doing exercises, and then having the confidence to use it when it's appropriate. So let's take this word as an example. Dilapidated. So we have the pronunciation, dilapidated. We think about how the word is divided. How many syllables does it have, right? How many sounds? It has 5. Dilapidated. We also want to think about the meaning, which means something that is run down. We usually use this word as an adjective to describe something that is not in good condition. How to use it? That house is dilapidated. Nobody has lived in it for 30 years. It needs repairs. So the house is dilapidated. So now you have a basic framework of the word and you understand how to use it and you're pretty comfortable with the pronunciation. Now we have to activate it. We try to use it. So you might say, yeah, there's a house down the road that's dilapidated. So whenever you have an opportunity, try to use the word. Try to be intentional. Say, I'm going to find a way to use that today. And that can really help you learn vocabulary. Some students use flashcards. Flashcards are fine. They have their place. Use flashcards, but you need to do something else. And this is the technique that I want to share with you today. You're going to take that word, dilapidated, and you're going to connect it with an image. The brain works in pictures. We're all visual learners. So connect dilapidated with something that is that way. So you know what comes to my mind when I think of an object or a home that is dilapidated? I think of this home in my neighborhood where I grew up. There was an old lady that lived there and eventually she had moved. I think she had died and the house kind of sat for a while. It was this old broken down gray house. So I always think of that home. That helps me remember the word. So you have to picture something to connect the word to. So is there a dilapidated car in the neighborhood, a home, a building, an abandoned building, a place that is not in good repair? Think of that object and connect it to that word. The stranger the image, the more bizarre it is, your brain will hold on to it. So when I think of this dilapidated house in the neighborhood that I grew up with, I have to add something to make it a little bit crazier so the brain will hold on to it. Maybe I picture myself swinging a giant hammer at the house to knock it down. So I'm picturing myself with this giant hammer just knocking down the house. That is going to help me remember the word because the brain has now connected that word with an image. And this is how students can learn hundreds of words very quickly by creating an image for that particular word. So those are the steps to learn vocabulary, but 2 things that are most important is the activation phase. That is the actual word for it. Activation, trying to use the vocabulary yourself, whether it's putting it in sentences, trying to get it in your vocabulary, intentional vocabulary, trying to use it whenever there's an appropriate opportunity, and then connecting some kind of image or picture to it. But it has to be an image that you create. You can't use my image of that dilapidated house because you didn't grow up in the neighborhood. You have no idea what the house looks like. Create your own image, and that's how you'll remember. So let's hop on my computer. We're going to do a video lesson of going to the post office today. We're going to check those vocabulary words necessary for this specific situation. We have to learn post office vocabulary. So I'm going to take you through a typical lesson that's found in ESL Library. I talked about this in the How to Teach English Online resources, part 5. If you're interested, I'll put the link in the description. And let's go. And then we'll see some of the things that you can really learn when you go through the entire process of learning words. You've got to put them into use. Okay, so let's go ahead and start that lesson. Going to the post office. So this is a situation that you might find yourself in. It's best to learn vocabulary words based on situation instead of just random words. So learn words topically. So if there's another situation that you have coming up, for example, going to the doctor's office, then learn those vocabulary words. So here we have warm-up questions. If you're a teacher, these are really good to see if your student already has some vocabulary or what they know. Are they comfortable talking about this topic or do they struggle? If you are a student, you can use these questions after you've learned some of the vocabulary and see how comfortable you are. Can you answer the questions such as, do you send letters and parcels or packages by mail? Is the cost of postage expensive in your country? So can you give us the answer to those questions after you've gone through the lesson? Here we have our vocabulary preview. We have 11 words. So the first thing I always like to tell students is make sure you have the pronunciation down packed. Make sure that you know it very well. So I'm just going to say them for you, thinking about the syllables, the stress, because if you can't get the word out correctly, then you're already defeated, right? So let's get the pronunciation good. Then we're going to check the definition, and you can pause the video and do the matching. Let me say the words for you. Postal carrier, customs, insurance, postage, parcel, package, return address, receipt, postal, zip code, registered mail, priority service, tracking number. So you can go ahead and pause the video and do the matching. And then on the flip side, I'm going to give you the answers. So here are the answers, class. Hopefully you got 100%. So we're going to move forward, and now we have to activate these words. We have to do some exercises, and there's one type of exercise in particular that I love that I find students often don't use enough and teachers don't push enough. So let's move forward here. And that is dialogue reading. So what's wonderful about dialogue reading is that you get a comfortable conversational flow. This is written for spoken English, not written English. Spoken English is very different than written English. So what you'll notice is that we use more contractions like I'd when we speak. When we write, we don't use as many contractions. So you'll see a lot of contractions as we go through this dialogue. So since I don't have a partner here to read with me, I'm just going to read both parts. Notice how all of the vocabulary words are throughout this dialogue. And so that's really nice. It gets us activating those words. Postal clerk starts. Can I help you? Customer. Yes, I'd like to send this package to Toronto, Canada. Postal clerk. How would you like to send it? Customer. How much will it be by airmail? Excuse me. Postal clerk. Let me weigh it and check. A minute later. Postal clerk. It'll be $18.50. Customer. How long will it take to get there? Postal clerk. It should take about 4 or 5 business days. Customer. Okay, I'll send it by air. Postal clerk. Please fill out this customs declaration form. The postage includes $100 insurance. Would you like to buy any extra insurance? Customer. No thanks. That's enough. Postal clerk. You forgot to put your return address on the parcel. Customer. Okay, thanks. I'll do that now. Postal clerk. Is there anything else you'd like? Customer. Yes, I'd like to buy a package of 25 stamps. Postal clerk. Okay, here you are. The total bill for the parcel and the stamps is $28.50. Customer. Okay, here you go. Postal clerk. Thank you. Here's your receipt. Your tracking number is on the receipt. Customer. Thanks. Oh, by the way, where is the mail slot? I have some stamped letters to mail. Postal clerk. Just below the counter. Have a nice day. Nice conversation. So did you understand all of that? Was there anything that you would have said differently? So this is a great way even to get ideas of how to express yourself and how to ask questions. Okay. And here we actually have suggested things to say, things you're going to hear, how to ask questions, start questions. They can give you different options. So if we look at number 9, you might hear, is there anything else you'd like? But you could also hear, would you like anything else? Can I get you anything else? Is there anything else I can do for you? They all mean the same thing. And number 6, it'll be $18.50, right? That's the long way, $18.50 or $18.50. Okay, that will be $18.50. That will cost $18.50. That comes to $18.50. They all mean the same thing. So these are really nice expressions to go over. So dialogue reading is a great way to activate. So we won't do the listening practice here, but we're going to go right down to this vocabulary review. Odd one out. So which one does not match? We're just going to do number one for the sake of time here. So looking at number one, which word is not matching, does not agree with the other three words? And do you know why? Postal carrier, mail slot, mailman, letter carrier. Which one should I get rid of? I am going to get rid of B, mail slot. Why? Because the other three are people. They're synonyms. A mailman and a postal carrier and a letter carrier are all the same. So hopefully you got that right. So that's another way that you can activate your vocabulary, get it into the brain, get it into that memory. So I hope you enjoyed this and you understand what's involved when you're going into a situation, or you know you're going into a situation, or how to best learn vocabulary. The most important parts that you have to remember is always activate the vocabulary. You have to do some kind of practice with it for sure. And then if you have any words that are a little bit difficult, make sure you connect it with an image, and that way you'll remember. So if this video was helpful, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't done so already. I appreciate it. If you'd like more lessons like this, you can certainly go ahead and take my communication course. The link is in the description. And there you can actually get a copy of this postal lesson and other lessons like it. There's about 7 hours of instruction. So go ahead and take the course if you're interested in more lessons like this, or learning how to be a better communicator. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Have a good day.